The headlines over the years say it all. These news stories should serve to remind us of the growing number of silent citizens in our state that need our help. They need us to cut through the bureaucratic red tape. They need us to provide them and their families with a viable alternative to group homes. They need to know that they have a future. They need us to build Promise Village. The vision is to develop approximately 100 acres of land into a safe and loving community, specifically designed for developmentally disabled adults.
What's distinctly different about this group than any others, perhaps, is that they do not and cannot advocate for themselves. They're one of the few adult groups that do not lobby, they do not champion themselves, they don't even complain. They don't know how to do that. So if that doesn't motivate you to be an advocate for them, then I don't know what would. And then when you find out that there are absolutely no resources coming for thousands of them on a waiting list, it inspires me to try to come up with a new solution. And so the campus that we've developed, it has great features to it. It has employment opportunities so that they can work at the level that they can work. They have collective socialization opportunities. They have independent opportunities. They have great observation and participation by family members. And they deserve the shot. They deserve the chance. And this one doesn't have any public assistance requests attached to it. And if we can pull this off, and it'll be difficult, we could change the world.
The movement to develop Promise Village is totally parent-driven. Parents like Terry Lynch and her husband, who only want some alternatives for their 36-year-old son, David.
We're getting older and wiser, hopefully. We're really, the last few years, been really rethinking where he should be. And I don't think, for my child who's nonverbal and needs a lot of care, he's more on the lower functioning for a Downs adult, that a group home is where he would be best served. The problem for us is that David's been on this waiting list for over 10 years. And they're pretty close to 2,000. We don't have an exact number on this waiting list. No one's being moved off the waiting list. So it's not like, okay, David's ready to live independently and you can choose from group homes or group homes. I just don't think for my child, and as a parent we have to make decisions for our children, and if they're handicapped, they're not verbal, they can't toilet themselves, they can't feed themselves, then you have to say, okay, I think I know what's best. And I need a model of care that's more of a community living model of care.
John and Jackie Herdzina, who have two developmentally disabled young adults, are frustrated with the existing system and see Promise Village as the answer for their children's future.
We've applied for a grant. He's been on the list for 5 years now. And he wants, like I said, he's a little higher functioning and he wants to live on his own. He's looked at the group homes and such. He doesn't want that type of thing. But he'd like to live on his own. He deserves to be on his own. So we've applied for him, and we apply every once in a while, and they turn us down and say, no, there's no money for him. So I just said one day, as Jackie and I were sitting there at a conference with the state coordinator, what if Jackie and I decided we've had enough of Grant, and we said, dropped him off at your doorstep? And he just laughed. He says, we aren't going to do that. I said, well, if something happens to me, then what? Because I'm not going to live forever. And he said, then Jackie will take care of it. Something happens to both of us, we'll deal with it then. So there's no planning. It's reaction, total reaction, which gives us total discomfort.
Experts in the field agree. Families need and deserve choices.
What we're after is the right kid in the right place in the right program. And that has to be determined on an individual basis. It can't be determined by a bureaucrat sitting in an office trying to put every kid in one niche. So literally, no one knows the needs of these children better than their own families. And long term, families know what it's going to take for their child to live happily, to live successfully. In our experience, it isn't whether a program is campus-based or community-based. It's whether the program idea is solid, whether the program support is solid, whether the leadership is solid long-term, and if it's really fulfilling the needs of this child and the needs of the family who want the successful program for this boy or for this girl. The thing that amazes me is how a community of caring can really come together, you know, to meet the individual and the basic human needs that people have. And there's something very special about an environment like that where people are assembled for one purpose, for one unique purpose, and I marvel at that every day.
We have a long waiting list, and in order to change that, we have to have more availability of services that is both group home in the community as well as on a campus. And we have to give families choices. And there are young adults who are in the community and are doing well. And then there are groups of young adults that aren't thriving in the community. And so what's the choice for them? Just to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and not being successful, or finding some other alternative? And I think this is what we're trying to do here.
Any time that you can engage parents and they have a number of resources to choose from, and engage the kids or the clients, because I'm probably this program deals with all ages, you're much better ahead. And I think that's the difference between what residential care, what residential settings look like today than they did maybe 25, 30 years ago, where they were self-contained and self-motivated and believed that they had all the experts.
It starts to answer the whole collective concern that parents have. What happens to my kid? What happens to my child? And statistically, nobody wants to talk about it. But a third of these kids end up under bridges or in jails, and a third of them end up in nursing homes and assisted living centers before their time, and a third of them end up being shuffled around. Not a dignified result for those who can't take care of themselves.
You know, probably my worst fear is that people wouldn't love him like we do. Wouldn't care for him like we do. And we travel a lot doing medical missions, and he's even gone with us, so something could happen to us and then he would just be ripped out of our hands. And right now there's not anywhere for him to go.
There is a real void in our community when these young people reach maturity. Their world is uncertain and full of anxiety for those that love them. They're not asking for the world, just for their own safe place in the world. People like Michael. He hopes to have his own place someday where he can have a dog and walk to work. Kira wants to have roommates to live with and go on trips to the Dairy Queen. Courtney would really like to live in a castle at Disney World, but hopes someday to live with her friends and try on each other's clothes. Matt just wants a place where he can have a computer and where he can cook. Fulfilling these simple dreams is what Promise Village is all about. It will demand a lot of pieces coming together, as no one person can do it all. But if everyone will help with one little piece, we can make this a reality. We are obligated to try.